pregnancy test is positive, and that means you are pregnant.
Oh, I didn't really think... You sure?
Yes, the test is really very accurate, and it did come back positive.
Oh no, really? Can my boyfriend come in? I want him to hear it from you.
Sure he can, but if it's okay with you, Kate, we've found it's really helpful if we can talk together alone first. Tell me how you're feeling about being pregnant.
My boyfriend is mad. He won't believe that I'm pregnant. I was on the pill, but I ran out a few months ago, so we used condoms a lot. I was planning on starting the pill again this month, but then I moved, and it's been a crazy couple of months, and now this.
It sounds like you were both trying to be careful about birth control, and were not planning a pregnancy. It also sounds like it's been a pretty chaotic month.
That's for sure. And now he wants me to have an abortion. And there's no way I can do that.
Tell me more, if you could, about what you're thinking right now.
My boyfriend is really upset. And he's really clear that he doesn't want to be a dad. He thinks it'd be easy for me to have an abortion and thinks all I need to do is make that appointment and get it over with. It's just not that easy. I'm against abortion. But I guess now that this is real, that I'm pregnant, I don't know for sure.
You just said, now that this is real. What does that mean to you?
Well, I told myself a long time ago that I would never have an abortion. And I just can't do it, no matter what. But I guess now that I know it's real, I just have to deal with it.
So it sounds like abortion isn't a choice for you. I want to go back to what you said earlier, that your boyfriend is pretty upset about this pregnancy. How will he react if you don't have an abortion like he wants you to?
He's not going to be happy. He's not going to like having to deal with it at all. He's really mad that I didn't get back on the pill right away, so he thinks this is all my fault. He might even break up with me. I don't know how he's going to react after I tell him.
Kate, I just want to check in with you about your safety. I want to be sure that he wouldn't hurt you in any way.
Oh, no, he's not like that at all. He'd be upset, but he'd never do anything to hurt me. We've had a pretty good relationship. He's just upset about this whole situation.
All right. I just ask all the patients I see about that to be sure they're safe. So, it sounds like abortion is not a choice for you. We can talk more about continuing the pregnancy and either being a parent or making an adoption plan. What would be helpful to you? Kate, you seem anxious. What is it you're thinking about?
I want to be a mom someday, but I don't know if I could. I don't know if I can have that baby and keep it without him being okay with it. I don't even know if we'd stay together. This was just not in our plans. We've only been together like 6 months.
What would it be like to be a single mom? Who would be around to help you?
Nobody. My parents live in another state and they still have my 2 brothers at home. I have my friends, but they couldn't help that much, and I'm in school and I couldn't work, have a baby, and finish school. It just seems impossible.
You're in a tough spot. Your boyfriend is clear he doesn't want you to continue the pregnancy. You're against abortion, yet you're uncertain about the possibility of being a single parent. What have you thought about adoption?
I don't know, not much. It's hard to imagine being pregnant and not taking responsibility for it.
I know it can feel like that, but it depends on how you define being responsible. Making a plan to make sure that a baby has a home with adoptive parents who are ready for a child can be very responsible. What do you know about open adoption?
Well, not much. What is it?
Open adoption means that the birth parents can be involved in choosing the adoptive parents and be involved in the child's life at some level. Would you like information on open adoption?
Yeah, I'd like that. And maybe my boyfriend might want to see it.
You do have some time to make your decision. The important thing is to take time to make sure no matter what you decide, you're sure it's the right thing for you at this time in your life.
You mean I don't have to decide now?
No. Although no matter what you decide, whether being a parent or making an adoption plan, it's important that you get prenatal care in the next month or so. I can give you some information and resources to get that. Kate, who else knows that you came here today because you thought you were pregnant?
Nobody. We didn't want to tell anyone until we knew for sure.
Okay, and now that you know, who might you talk to?
Probably my best friend, but mostly my boyfriend.
I'd encourage you to talk to your friend, and certainly your boyfriend more. You mentioned earlier that you want him to come back. Do you still want him to come in? What would be helpful if he came back now?
Yeah, I'd like to tell him with you here and talk about the adoption stuff with him too.
Okay, before I get him, is there anything that you don't want to talk about while he's here?
No, I'm ready to tell him.
Okay.
I really like this counselor's approach to a client who is a little nervous, and you can tell that she's worried. But the counselor's voice tone and body language and just gentle approach really helps the client open up and talk a little bit about what her worries are.
Can my boyfriend come in? I want him to hear it from you.
Sure he can, but if it's okay with you, Kate, we've found it's really helpful if we can talk together alone first.
It's such a common request for clients to ask if somebody else could be in the room during the time that they get their results. And I liked how the counselor acknowledged it and really addressed the importance of having the discussion with the client first, and then later loops back around and invites the boyfriend back into the room.
While including a partner at the client's request is a really essential act, it's important to first give that space to the woman alone. There are issues to discuss that they may not feel comfortable discussing in front of their partner, and the partner may end up dominating the conversation and not giving space for the woman to explore her own feelings or make her own choice.
The client is really talking about how upset her boyfriend would be and what his reaction would be and what his thoughts are around abortion. So this is why I think it's important to note the importance of her having this space on her own to be able to talk to the counselor.
Tell me more, if you could, about what you're thinking right now. You just said, now that this is real. What does that mean to you? Kate, you seem anxious. What is it you're thinking about?
The counselor's been very good about using open-ended questions, which is so important to hear more about the client's story, to gather more information that's going to be important in the decision making, and also for the client to have a chance to express a little bit about what's going on in their life.
I don't know how he's going to react after I tell him.
Kate, I just want to check in with you about your safety. I want to be sure that he wouldn't hurt you in any way.
In any pregnancy option session, I think it's very important to rule out any reproductive coercion, abuse, and address the client's safety.
The client has talked about a couple of times about her partner's reaction, that he's very upset. He might be very upset when he finds out. He's going to get very mad. He wants me to have an abortion. She's mentioned this several times, and it was very important here that the counselor caught on to this and really talked about her safety and explored those issues around safety.
The counselor explores this further and asks a direct question about whether the boyfriend would hurt her. One thing that might be improve the interaction is to ask the question in the affirmative. So rather than stating he wouldn't do anything, would he, is to just ask directly, are you afraid of your partner, or do you think he might hurt you in any way?
All right. I just ask all the patients I see about that, to be sure they're safe.
The other thing that she did that I really liked is that she normalized the question by stating, I ask this of all of my patients, so that in no way was the question isolating to this particular client.
So it sounds like abortion is not a choice for you. We can talk more about continuing the pregnancy and either being a parent or making an adoption plan. What would be helpful to you?
I think this is a great example of using client-centered counseling. The counselor brought up the one particular option, in this case, abortion, and once the client indicated that that was not an option for her, the counselor didn't push it and moved forward with the next option available.
You're in a tough spot. Your boyfriend is clear he doesn't want you to continue the pregnancy. You're against abortion, yet you're uncertain about the possibility of being a single parent. What have you thought about adoption?
This client seems quite stuck. She's in a situation she didn't anticipate, and she really is having a hard time figuring out what to do. And the counselor, without expressing her own opinion, is very warm and supportive and clarifies the client's dilemma by reflecting to her the things that she's already said about how she feels about being able to parent a child and how she feels about abortion, and then opens the door to really exploring adoption as an option.
It depends on how you define being responsible. Making a plan to make sure that a baby has a home with adoptive parents who are ready for a child can be very responsible.
What I liked what the counselor did here is that she used the word responsible and showed the client how she can be responsible in any of the choices that she makes, and that it can be responsible to make an adoption plan. It can be responsible to have an abortion. It can be responsible to continue pregnancy depending on where the patient is in her life and what she chooses to do.
The language that the counselor used in referring to adoption, making an adoption plan, is a very positive approach to discussing adoption as an option. I myself find that I often trip over language when I talk about adoption because we're so used to hearing giving the baby up or giving it up for adoption or even relinquishing, which is a word that most people don't even know what it means. So to refer to the choice of adoption as making an adoption plan is very affirmative and supportive.
Open adoption means that the birth parents can be involved in choosing the adoptive parents and be involved in the child's life at some level. Would you like information on open adoption?
Many pregnancy test counselors aren't well prepared to discuss adoption and may only have a card with a phone number to give a client. This counselor is able to explore adoption with this young woman, giving her adequate information and support for really considering it as an option.
Before I get him, is there anything that you don't want to talk about while he's here?
No, I'm ready to tell him.
It was great that the counselor invited the boyfriend to come back and join them, but it was also important that she clarify what would be important to keep private or what could be discussed when they were together.
One of the things a counselor does that's very useful is clarify with the client what information can be shared or if there's any information that can't be. Often clients will say, oh, I talked to my mother or my boyfriend about everything. But when you get specific, like have you told him about the pregnancy that you terminated before you met him, that might not be something that she wants to share. So always assure that you've clarified that before you add a third party into the discussion.
The client appeared very anxious at the very beginning, and I think just as a result of the counselor's empathy and support and warmth, the client really walked out feeling confident in her decision to be able to discuss this with her partner. The counselor in this session came across as very caring. She used some key listening skills, such as asking open-ended questions to elicit more response and background from the client. She really affirmed the client's responses and reflected the client's feelings throughout the session.